There's many mysteries in the world. So from a mysterious creature seen here in England to a legendary island, here we have 5 unsolved mysteries. The Yeti is an Asian Bigfoot found in the Himalayas, inhabiting Nepal, Tibet, Russia and India. The Yeti is probably the closest living relative to Gigantopithecus, a prehistoric ape that lived in Asia 300,000 years ago. In Buddhist mythology, the Yetis were peaceful creatures that were very shy, and lived in dense snow caves on the glaciers which form the Ganges River in India. The Yeti was even mentioned in pre-Buddhist cultures, such as the Licha people, who worshipped a giant glacier giant. Tibetan monasteries have collected several skulls and bones of the Yetis, some which reside in the Smithsonian Museum today, although one of their specimens was proven to be a human bone. Others contained in the museum are still in question. In 2013, British geneticist Brian Sykes scientifically confirmed that some of the DNA samples of the Yeti didn't belong to any existing animal, instead to a prehistoric polar bear believed to be extinct. Sir Edmund Hillary was one of the first 2 men to climb the world's highest mountain, Mount Everest. In the 1950s, curiosity about the identity of the Yeti drew Edmund Hillary into the search. Stories of hairy man-like creatures were known. Footprints in the snow or mud were found to indicate that such cryptids were active in and out of places in Nepal, Tibet and the surrounding region. In 1952, Hillary along with George Lowell found hair on a high pass while in the mountains, relating it to Yeti. In 1953, Yeti tracks were found by Hillary in the Barranquilla Range. The next year, 2 British members of Hillary's team discovered Yeti tracks in the Cholong Valley. His trusted Sherpa friends would tell Hillary of their first-hand sightings of the man-sized Yeti. The Sherpas in Nepal knew of several types of Yeti in the mountains of Asia. The Beast of Bodmin is a phantom wildcat purported to live in Cornwall, England. Bodmin Moor became a centre of these sightings with occasional reports of slain wildstock. The creature is panther-like and black-furred. It's supposedly a phantom because big cats shouldn't be in England's moors. A long-held hypothesis suggests that the possibility that big cats are at large in the United Kingdom is due to them being imported as part of a private collection, and then the creatures later escaped or were set free. An escaped big cat would not be reported to the authorities due to it being illegally owned. The Ministries of Agriculture, Fisheries and Food conducted an official investigation in 1995. The study found there was no verifiable evidence of exotic felines loose in Britain, and that the mauled farm animals could have been attacked by a common indigenous species. In April of this year, a lady named Lisa spotted a similar creature in broad daylight. She said, "I went down a country road and what I saw was maybe 100 yards in front of me. It essentially strolled across the road from right to left and then leaped into the bushes. It looked like a black panther. It was shiny black and there was no way it was a dog, a deer or a domestic cat." Many have been debunked as hoaxes or misidentifications, but there are a few of the 2,000 or so that are recorded every year that remain as mysteries. Many groups are gathering data around the UK to help try to explain the strange going-ons. Recent scientific studies are also adding weight to the argument that something or some things may be out there. Eurasian lynx disappeared from the UK roughly 1,300 years ago. However, the Lynx UK Trust believe they could be part of Britain's wildlife once again. They're carefully assessing reintroduction sites that would be suitable for the cats and the native wildlife, but also for local residents and livestock farmers. The team would act as a centre point for monitoring and support of the population, and are seeking government backing for their plans. Some groups are in favour of the return of the lynx, however others have concerns that the cats may ultimately come into conflict with either humans, livestock or rare or endangered native wildlife. The thylacine, or better known as the Tasmanian Tiger, is a dog-like marsupial that lived on the island of Tasmania. It's known as the largest carnivorous marsupial in modern times. Unlike Bigfoot, who is yet to be proven, there is evidence that the thylacine did in fact exist. Thylacines existed from New Guinea all the way to present-day Tasmania. When the Aboriginals came to Australia 10,000 years ago, they brought along dingoes. Dingoes would compete with the thylacines for food, and were also hunted as a food source by the Aboriginals. 10,000 years ago, during the last Ice Age, Australia and Tasmania were linked together. After the Ice Age, Australia and Tasmania were separated, and thylacines would live in Australia for the next 3,000 years and in Tasmania all the way up to the 20th century. In 1642, Abel Tasman will be the first European to discover the thylacines in Tasmania. In 1930, Whiff-Batty shot a thylacine. This thylacine would be considered the last known wild thylacine. In 1933, a thylacine by the name of Benjamin was captured and sold to the Hobart Zoo. In September of 1936, Benjamin would die due to the negligence of volunteer zookeepers. There have been many sightings since the death of Benjamin. With an increase in sightings, hunters were sent out to gather evidence of thylacines. The more searches that were conducted, the same amount of failed attempts were made. In 1986, thylacines were declared extinct by the International Union for Conservation of Nature and Tasmanian government. Even after being declared extinct, sightings continue to increase. Sightings are seen in Tasmania, mainland Australia and New Guinea. The Brown Lady of Rainham Hall is a ghost which reportedly haunts Rainham Hall in Norfolk, England. It became one of the most famous sightings in Great Britain when photographers from Country Life magazine claimed to have captured its image. The Brown Lady is so named because of the brown dress it's claimed she wears. According to legend, the Brown Lady of Rainham Hall is the ghost of Lady Dorothy Walpole. She was the second wife of Charles Townshend, who was notorious for his violent temper. When Charles learned of his wife's infidelity, he punished her by imprisoning her in the family's estate at Rainham Hall. He never allowed her to leave its premises, not even to see her children. She remained at Rainham Hall until her death in 1726 from smallpox. Over the next 2 centuries, her ghost was repeatedly sighted wandering through Rainham Hall, suggesting that she never left its premises even after her death. In the early 19th century, King George IV saw her while he was staying at the hall. He said that she stood beside his bed wearing a brown dress, and that her face was pale and her hair was dishevelled. The next reported sighting of the Brown Lady was made in 1836 by Captain Frederick Marryat, a friend of novelist Charles Dickens. The Brown Lady was next seen in 1926, when the ghost was seen on the staircase. On September the 19th, 1936, Captain C. Hubert Provand, a London-based photographer working for Country Life magazine, and his assistant Indri Shearer were taking photographs of Rainham Hall for an article. They claimed they'd already taken a photograph of the hall's main staircase, and were setting up to take a second when Shearer saw a vapory form gradually assuming the appearance of a woman. Under Shearer's direction, Provand quickly took the cap off the lens while Shearer pressed the trigger to activate the camera's flash. Later, when the negative was developed, the famous image of the Brown Lady was revealed. The account of Provand and Shearer's ghostly experience at Rainham Hall was published in Country Life magazine on December 26, 1936, along with a photograph of the Brown Lady. Some critics have claimed that Shearer faked the image by putting grease or a similar substance on the lens in the shape of a figure, or moved down the stairs himself during an exposure. Others claim that the image is an accidental double exposure or that the light somehow got into the camera. The mystery of the lost city of Atlantis still captures the imagination of millions. Many books and TV shows have been made about the possible location of Atlantis. A quick Google search will show that some people say that Santorini is Atlantis, while others believe that the waters of Bimini are hiding a road to the lost city. However, if we look at Plato's text, it tells us where the submerged island once stood. The text reads that Atlantis came forth out of the ocean. It goes on to say there was an island situated in front of the straits which are bayou, called the Pillars of Heracles. Today we call these the Straits of Gibraltar, where Spain and Africa are separated by a narrow strip of sea. Most of us probably think of a lush green island surrounded by deep blue ocean waters when we picture Atlantis. While the story focuses on the island, most of us probably assume that Atlantis was no more than this, but Plato tells us that Atlantis was actually an empire ruled from the island. While many believe the story is a myth created by Plato to illustrate his theories about politics, others insist it's based on a real historical disaster. His account includes detailed descriptions of the island, with mountains in the north and along the coast, and a plain in the south. Its kings were descended from Poseidon, the god of the sea, but their divine lineage became diluted as they mixed with mortals. Over the centuries, scholars have attempted to locate the real Atlantis, believing the account was based on a real ancient superpower. Some believe the Atlantis myth was inspired by the Black Sea floods of around 5000 BC, an event that may also have generated the flood stories which appeared in the Old Testament. Whether we decide to believe in the legend is our own choice, but there are still many unanswered questions regarding Atlantis. So that was 5 unsolved mysteries. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more countdown videos.